All right, this is Jack Yates again, graduate student in the Masters of Science in Marketing at the University of Denver. And this is my second video for the South by Southwest class. And this session that I'm presenting about is the welcoming remarks for this year's event, I guess. It was presented by Hugh Forrest, who was the chief. He's the program and chief officer of South by Southwest. And I want to first talk about why I found it necessary to go to this event. Mostly because, I did my research on South by Southwest. I've heard about it for years. I've always, the short line that I've always said to myself in my head is it's an everything festival. But I've never even been to Texas, let alone a South by Southwest, as I've said. So I wanted to kind of go to this to get an understanding of what am I in store for, how can I navigate this not only most efficiently but appropriately. I wanted to be welcomed, for lack of a better word. So I liked it a lot. The session started with a land acknowledgement for the indigenous tribes that first lived in the area, which I thought was really cool. And then one of the things that Hugh began with was, please make sure that you thank all the volunteers. All the staffers, all the sponsors in the city of Austin. But I really liked how he spent a lot of time on making sure to say thank you to the volunteers. He really emphasized that the volunteers are here, obviously unpaid volunteers. And be sure to thank you and be polite to them and be nice to them, which he didn't really too much about that part, but he mostly just said, be good to the volunteers, thank the volunteers. It was interesting that he announced a lot of last minute additions, like the Prime Minister of Ireland was coming. There was a Firefly AI startup, that Mark Cuban was getting some sort of South by Southwest Achievement Award, which I didn't even know was a thing. Tom Morello for Rage Against the Machine was doing a talk about the state of the music industry. There was a whole quantum computing angle that he talked about, which was strange because I was really interested in this point, but he didn't really name any companies. And then he talked about this this one session that was a last minute edition, which I really want to go to, for this startup called Lyft Flying, which are like, I don't even know how to describe it. He showed a picture of it. They look like drones, but they're the size of helicopters and they can fit people in them, and they're supposed to be some sort of air taxi thing, which, I can't even imagine. The second those things start flying around, we've officially entered the future. And then, of course, Michelle Obama, which we all saw that email. So that would have been, I think it's going to be next week, unfortunately, but Michelle Obama would have been great. He talked about logistics, ask attendees where to go, yada, yada, yada. And then he said something that really surprised me about the elephant in the room, and I think he literally showed a picture of an elephant on his slides, which was great, which was that they're tearing down the Austin Convention Center, and after he said that, he made sure to leave a good 3-second dramatic pause to then continue to say that they're actually going to rebuild it, and they're going to make it bigger and better and shinier, but it's going to take 3 years. And this was kind of funny because while he addressed the issue, he didn't really say what South by Southwest was going to do about it. He kind of implied that they're still going to host it in Austin, of course, and that they're just going to hold a lot more events in hotels, or I guess. I don't know. It was very non-specific and strange. But then he quickly shifted out of this really appropriately in a way. And he said this, and this is a direct quote, which is why I'm looking down because I want to read it. He said, this event is about people, ideas, and connections, not buildings. And that was the quote where the whole idea of South by Southwest really started to click in my head. That's where I understood, I get it. This is all about learning and what's going to happen in the 5 years, and of course networking. And he said that the next 3 South by Southwest are going to look very different, but be very cool, which, again, non-specific, broad, but sounds cool. I mean, I've only been here for like a day and a half, and I already want to come back. and then this is where it got sort of into my personal connections, because I work in some industries, I have some clients that are being directly affected by the political situation in the United States right now, which Hugh touched upon as well. He was really himself political and smart and polite about it. I think he said, in the USA, we live in strange times, but that makes South by Southwest even more important. And it just really hit home, you know, especially someone who grew up in DC and knows people in politics and works in industries that are being directly negatively affected by current political decisions, and know people that are having economic hardships because of political decisions, like friends that work in the Forest Service who have all lost their jobs, or even people in AI startups that have lost a lot of their funding because they were getting it from like federal grants from renewables. And it's just, you know, I mean, it seems like there's no shortage of bad news these days. I've almost put myself in like a media blackout because of it. But it was really great to be welcomed to this event by someone who said, I wrote down so many of his quotes, so I'm going to share all of them because I just feel like I have to. He said, "We celebrate building bridges and sharing ideas in person." That really hit home. I love the idea of the whole well, it's a classic, but the bridge building metaphor, but this idea of like, we're not doing this, he didn't mention Zoom, but we're not doing this over Zoom. We're coming together physically from across the planet, and I, at this point, have met someone from every single hemisphere, and it's only been day one, so, you know, and we've all come to Texas. That's amazing. And he talked about the power and importance of community, and that South by Southwest celebrates the power of finding common ground. And that last one there really stuck with me, because I'm not going to lie, I went to some sessions today that were really interesting, and I didn't think were that cool. Cool is not a good word, but they weren't that engaging, but they still made me think. They still made me consider perspectives, whether it was on a business level, a philosophical level, not a lot of political stuff, but just even like a marketing level. Like I went to some events that I just thought, this is terrible marketing, but we're trying to create this immersive experience, and so to just be there in person and see that really made me think about these business concepts, these personal questions, and I just really connected with that. I thought he was a great presenter. I mean, he was like the, you know, general you'd follow into battle anywhere. And he also mentioned some final closing remarks that he announced the South by Southwest in London that's happening this June. Which I'm sure got announced a long time ago, but I'd never heard about it, and I thought that was very cool to see that this event is expanding. And then he mentioned that they'd be having their Pacific Rim South by Southwest again, which I kind of chuckled at because he mentioned Pacific Rim a few times, and I sat there thinking about giant robots fighting giant monsters, and then finally he said Sydney, and I went, oh, Australia. Okay, I get it, my fault, which was also funny because I met many Australians at this event. But that's part of the beauty of it. Again, like people from all over the world coming together to share ideas and network. And I want to say that I almost learned, he set this tone that helped me learn just as much from the person sitting in the chair next to me in some of these sessions than the person on stage. Because he sort of invoked this idea of like, talk to people, build bridges, get to know everyone, share ideas. And it was a way to sort of light the fuse of creative juices in your head that sort of made me look at the entire event more deeply, in a deeper sense. And I don't know if I would have done that if I hadn't have attended this event. So I'm really glad I did, and I think it sort of affected, you know, I have several interests and several focuses of why I'm here, but I think it kind of affected everything, you know, and it wasn't a networking event. It was just a simple presentation. It wasn't a mixer, but it was really powerful at the same time for being really short too, which was also pretty strange, but gotta be one of my favorites.